Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. This is your friendly neighborhood RU Writing Center coming at you with some helpful tips and advice on how to combat writing anxiety. Writing anxiety is something that many people face, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. We may not have all the answers, but we do have some stories of our struggles to help light the way.
Hi, how's it going, guys? I'm Garrett. I'm just going to talk to you about, the problem of messy research and kind of what you do when you get through that research process and you have all these great things, but you don't quite know how to fit it all together. So the first thing I'll say is this is the nature of doing research. This is totally normal to go through. It's what we all go through. It's just part of the process. So it happens to everybody. And, one of the things I like to do when I kind of have all this information that doesn't easily fit together in a super seamless fashion is I like to kind of identify common themes in what I've found. So that can kind of take any sort of form you want that to, but it's really just kind of breaking down the information into these smaller themes that encapsulate what you've found. So it doesn't have to be perfect because that's why you're writing a paper. That's why you're coming up with an argument. You're creating that synthesis that explains your research. And yeah, it sounds daunting, but once you figure it out, it'll all really go well. Just really kind of try and find common themes. What are the ideas that link together all of the information? It doesn't have to be super apparent. It can be creative. That's what writing a paper is about. But if you can find those common themes, common ideas that run together through what you're saying, then that'll really, really kind of help you come up with ideas for writing your paper. And then, another problem that we have is kind of in organizing those common ideas. Like, how do you actually fit that together? And so what I like to do with that is kind of create a super informal outline. And when I say outline, that doesn't mean something that you turn into a professor that's like heading, subheading, subtopic, like 50 details under A, 50 details under B, 50 details under C. No, it's totally for you. It only has to make sense to you. It doesn't need to make sense to me. It doesn't need to make sense to your professor. It needs to make sense to you. So if you can find some sort of way to get, main topic, tiny topics here, and then just take all those quotes, all those details and research that you found and just fit them under some sort of subtopic in a super informal outline that really only you understand, then it's going to make things a lot easier and more manageable for you to be able to do that. And yeah, so it sounds kind of difficult, and it's definitely makes you feel anxious because you have all this information that you don't quite know what to do with. But if you can just kind of break that down to what are the common ideas / trends that I'm looking at, and how can I break these into subtopics? And if you're lucky, those subtopics can even become your body paragraphs that you end up writing in your paper. They won't always, but that's really what research and paper writing is about. You're being creative, you're interpreting this information. And those are just two quick little ideas that I have that might help you to do that. It might not. This is kind of an ugly process. That's what research is. But, I have faith you all can do it, and I wish you all the best.
Hi, I'm Stephanie, and when it comes to writing anxiety, my problem usually tends to stem from my procrastination. I've always been a huge procrastinator, especially during high school, and I know that sounds really bad, but this used to be my biggest issue, especially in my AP English class. I used to wait until at least the day before to do any essays, to do any assignments, and I think my issue with it was that I saw that it was working for me, and then I got good grades, and that everything worked out fine if I procrastinated. But this definitely changed my freshman year of college in my first English class. I realized that doing this wasn't the right method, and it was making things 100 times worse by waiting till the day before to do everything. So recently, within the past year and a half, I completely changed my way of completing essays and doing everything because I really enjoy writing. So with procrastinating, it definitely takes away that fun that comes from it, and especially from learning. So a bunch of my professors usually assign my essays and work at 3 to 4 weeks before the due date. So I spend at least 2 weeks just thinking about the paper. I stay away from starting any writing and doing anything. Then at least 2 weeks before, I take at least 3 to 4 days where I spend some days doing research and the other 2 days putting everything together and just writing everything. I set 2 to 3 hours aside for myself each of those days and just get everything done. By doing this, it allows me to finish the essay at least a week before the due date, and this also gives me that whole next week to revise, edit, and just clean up the whole essay and make it look how I want it to. And another thing with my procrastination, I also tend to get distracted a lot. So I have an iPhone, and I know I'm able to lock my apps and set a time limit. So by doing this, it definitely helps get rid of distractions because I'm unable to look at my phone, I'm unable to get texts, phone calls, and just get rid of my social media for at least like 2 to 3 hours. So my solution, if you're dealing with procrastination, if you're a huge procrastinator like I am, definitely create a timeline with deadlines and sticking to it, and also getting rid of any distractions. So I like to just stay in my room, turn off my phone, lock my apps, and just pull out my laptop and just focus. Get in that stream of focus and you'll get everything done.
Hi, you guys. So I'm Celia, and when I was younger, I had a lot of anxiety related to where I was at with school. When I started middle school, I wasn't necessarily feeling as prepared academically compared to some of my peers. And when I started writing real assignments, I found a lot of difficulty in that. And I really didn't know where to start. I mean, writing is not this easy fix. It's not necessarily simple to see what you can add that's going to improve your writing. And so the solution isn't really a super fast or easy one, but it really is recognizing that you have resources around you and you can edit your own writing and you can use the people who are there to help you to improve, because your professors don't expect you to be perfect at everything. That's also why you're at school, is to learn. And while it can be really daunting to start assignments when you don't necessarily feel like you know how to do it perfectly, the hardest part is really just starting. And that was what I found, is the more assignments that I did, the more I sort of understood these kind of different classes and different, subjects that require different things out of you as a writer. And really, it's that experience that's going to make you feel confident, and you're not going to feel anxious every time you sit down to do an assignment. So really just remembering that there are people all around you, your peers, your professional teachers, and also online resources. At the end of this presentation, we'll have a couple for you, but really there's a lot you can use, and every little block that you build up to make yourself better at writing will make you more confident, and it'll make it even easier to start.
Hi guys, I'm Kim, and my problem with writing is perfectionism. So I've always been a perfectionist, especially when it came to writing. Not really in the sense that I needed everything to be perfect, but that I always needed to put my best effort into every assignment. I never felt like I could just write something down and turn it in. So a lot of times I always feel that if I don't have enough time to sit down and write the whole paper in one sitting to the best of my ability, that it's not worth starting, which obviously is a big problem. So I often find myself worrying about the paper before I've even really attempted it. And then I procrastinate so much to avoid the assignment, which obviously makes the assignment I'm worried about even worse. So what I should have done, and what I've been working on in recent years to kind of combat the perfectionism, is, first of all, getting a babysitter. This sounds crazy, but it's really worked for me. What I do is I have my mom or my boyfriend. You could have anybody in your life, even someone on the phone or on FaceTime, but just get somebody to sit with you. Because if you're sitting with your babysitter, as I like to call them, you're not just wasting your time when you procrastinate, you're wasting their time, which for me always works. That it's like, I hate wasting other people's time. So it's like, if my mom's taking time out of her busy work schedule to sit on the phone with me for an hour, I'm going to work during that hour. I'm not going to talk about anything random because I feel bad. So that definitely works. And you can call anybody. If you're not a commuter student and you're on campus, use your roommate, use a friend. Some professors might even be willing to help to some extent. So just reach out, find yourself a babysitter. The other thing that goes along with the babysitter for me is talking through assignments out loud. I am an auditory learner, so a lot of times I need to make room in my brain to figure out how to write. So I have to get the ideas for the assignment out loud first so that other people can start thinking about those, and then I have enough room in my brain to figure out what I want to write. So that's another idea that has been really helpful in combating perfectionism. The last one is setting time limits. And I don't mean this in the sense of like you have to get this done by this day, but what I'll usually do is try and set a time limit that I'm like, okay, I want to be done with the assignment by this time. But even if I don't get it done by that time, I've at least worked wholeheartedly on that assignment for the last like 3 hours. So if I'm like, it's 2 o'clock, I want this paper done by 5, and it's like a 2-page paper, I will work on that paper until I'm done. Sometimes it's not done till 6:30 or 7 when I wanted it done by 5, but I get the assignment done and I'm almost always proud of it when I'm done. So the advice that I'll leave you with is that if you're trying your best on an assignment, odds are you're going to get a decent grade. So don't worry about the grade when you're writing. Just get your words onto the page and everything else will fall into place.
So, hi, I'm Emily, and my problem is being overprepared. You would think that being overprepared for papers and assignments would not necessarily be a bad thing, especially for projects that are as big and as important as your senior seminar, right? In theory, yes, this is true. But in practice, at least for me, it's not true. I've developed this nasty habit of gathering so much research, so many sources, and have so much to say that by the time I get ready to write, I am lost in the sea of preparation. I don't know where to start, what sources are stronger than others, what kind of organization is best, the problems go on and on. This happens because when I get stuck, I panic and become convinced I'm going to fail the assignment, and the spiral just continues downward. So to combat this overpreparedness and its subsequent underpreparedness, I have found that creating an outline is very helpful. This way, I can break up my ideas into more finite pieces and know exactly what kind of research to look for and do for myself. The other really terrific thing about making these outlines is that you will know exactly what you're going to write about in each section of your paper or project. It is essentially a step-by-step of what you're going to write about. Also, this kind of preparation is typically required or homework in some capacity, so you might be taking care of two things at once. Creating an outline also helps you weed out ideas you may or may not want to use. It can also help you see where your paper or project may need some more information. I found that it is a lot less stressful to move things around in an outline to better the flow of your paper rather than to try and move things around in the paper or project itself. Another helpful thing about outlines is that you can take them to professors and have a complete discussion about it. These discussions can help you find more information and organize it in a way that is meaningful. There are also some things that can help get the inspiration flowing. Perhaps the most helpful trick I have come to learn, though, is taking papers and projects one step at a time. With my overpreparedness comes a desire to finish a paper or project in one sitting, like Kim said. That way, I'm done and it's finished. However, this leads to rushing through stuff and perhaps not turning in my strongest work. Now, I give myself plenty of time to write, breathe, write some more, breathe again, finish writing, breathe again, revise, breathe, revise some more, and finally turn in the assignment. I highly recommend this because then the task at hand seems much less daunting and much more doable. In the words of Dwight Schrute, be ready to face any challenge that might be foolish enough to face you.
Hi everyone, my name's Ryan, and my problem with writing is starting with an introduction. Whenever I see like a prompt or what I'm going to write an essay about, I always want to like jump the gun and I want to get right into writing because I have all these ideas flowing at all times. So an introduction makes it really hard for me personally to start my paper because I have all the analysis going on in my mind. So what I do to solve this, I guess, is to develop my body paragraphs based off a thesis. So create my thesis first, and then I can just write and then go back at the end and make sure I'm introducing stuff that I need to in the introduction, make sure all my paper is wrapped tight together, it's cohesive. And one thing that I always look at it as is you can always edit bad writing, but you can't edit something that you didn't write. So I always rewrite sentences right when I'm typing it. I'm like, oh, the cat is blue. Or I'm like, oh, the cat is aqua. I'm like, I always have that process going on. Like, what can I do to make this sentence better? So what I've been working on is just kind of brain dumping it all at once and then going back and refining it and making sure it is cohesive and how I want it to sound. So that really helps me. And that's my advice for you.
Hi, I'm Kyle Stedman. I actually teach in the English department and I direct the Writing Center. I know it might be a little weird, like why is there 6 students followed by me? But honestly, even though I went to a whole lot of college and even though I've been writing for a long time and I think of myself as a writer and I think of myself as someone who loves to write, writing is still really hard and writing is still often very anxiety inducing for me. I hate to tell you, I don't think that's something that most writers evolve or grow out of. A couple examples that I can think of is I was working on an essay not too long ago, a personal essay about my own life, and I was organizing it through all of the months of the year. So I had like a section for each month. And I remember when I shared it with a couple of friends, I said, hey, what do you think about this draft? Both of them hated the October section. And I knew that I hated it too. I knew it wasn't as good, but I had no idea what to do about it. And I started feeling more and more overwhelmed. And I was like, the only way to solve this is to just sit here and fix the October section. I will make it work. I've also honestly felt the same way sometimes about planning classes. In these COVID times, you may have noticed that classes are really different. So taking a class that I've taught 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times and trying to figure out how do I turn that into a hybrid class, sometimes the feeling is just like, this is impossible. So what I want to do is I want to clench my fists. I want to stay in front of the computer and not move until I fix everything. I want to stay up late. What I found, the longer that I work on these things, the longer that I write or plan classes, that for me, I have to get away. The clenching my fist is the exact opposite of what I need to do. For instance, if I'm at home, I need to go take a nap. And who knows if I'll fall asleep in that 15 or 20 minutes, but I need to do some deep breathing, maybe turn some music on, and turn everything else in my mind off. And somehow magically, when I get back to the computer after that, things start to make sense. My favorite, if it's warm enough outside, is to go for a walk. I can walk right around my neighborhood in about 15 minutes. And often if I'm just thinking about my problem, what am I going to do with that October section? What am I going to do in week 11 and 12? Somehow by the time I get back to my computer, I've solved it without even meaning to, without clenching my fist and trying really hard to find the one perfect answer. I've always known people who stay up late. My college, there was actually an all-night lounge in the library where a lot of people, including some of my best friends, would go and hang out all night. They called it Club Olin because it was the Olin Library. Like, hey, we're going to Club Olin tonight. And if I went to Club Olin and tried to do an all-nighter, I wouldn't get anything written down. So I found that for me, what works better was to go to bed early, to get as much sleep as I possibly could, to get up really early and drink a pot of coffee. And again, with the sun rising through the window, with the coffee going through my veins, feeling like I'd taken a break, the solutions would be there. And I continue to work that way today. So with all of these stories said, let me actually close up this video here by pointing out that if you were inspired by anything that you heard here today, the conversation doesn't have to end. You can always come to the physical writing center or send your work into the virtual writing center and get ideas about how to deal with your writing anxiety or any other parts of writing from these people that you just heard from. They'll work there. But of course, we know that sometimes anxiety is bigger than just writing anxiety too. So can we strongly recommend that you turn to the Ling Health Center, the Ling Wellness Center with their counseling resources. I personally have gone to counseling there in rough times in my life. They have great people who are there for free waiting for you to come talk to them. If for some reason Ling is full or you can't find someone else, or if you prefer to go somewhere a little more anonymous, a little more off campus, it's possible that your insurance will cover some kind of mental health counseling. Talking it out with people is often a way to deal with anxiety, including writing anxiety. The other thing you can do is you can just Google writing anxiety help. As a staff, we've been really inspired by a lot of things we found online. And one of our favorites is this handout here from the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill's Writing Center. They have a whole bunch of great sites, including a great page with lots and lots of resources specifically about writing anxiety. If none of the stories that you heard from us spark a solution in your mind, if you're like, none of that quite feels like me, check that page out. Just Google UNC Chapel Hill Writing Anxiety. You'll find it, or you can follow that link there. We really want you to know that you're not alone and that there's a lot of help for you out there, and you can totally do this. Stay strong for the rest of the semester. We can't wait to see what you write when you bring it to us. Thanks.
We are witnessing a writing process.
And then just
But you don't have to take my word for
I'm getting writing anxiety again.
it. I know.
Oh, now I'm remembering the Harry Potter quote.
What's that one like new
Dumbledore
trilogy
gives you
Star
that.
Wars quote?
That was it. I think that was good.
Okay.
Decided how to do it. So we're identifying problems, we're creating solutions, and bam, we're being awesome.